I want to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. You're looking at a tree, a big one, let's say an oak. It weighs maybe 10,000 kilograms. It started years ago as a tiny seed, no bigger than your thumbnail. Where did all that mass come from? Most people, without thinking, say the soil. The tree ate the soil. That's the obvious answer, the intuitive answer. But here's the thing, it's wrong. Almost all of that tree, the trunk, the bark, the branches, the leaves, came from thin air. Literally, the sky, trees are made out of air. And once you understand how, you will never look at the world the same way again. Think about what happens when you plant something. You put a seed in soil. You water it. You give it sunlight. It grows. And if you come back a few years later, the soil looks lower. Less soil. More plant. So obviously the plant ate the soil, right? I mean, the math seems to work out. This is what everyone thought for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks thought it. Aristotle thought it. Farmers believed it. Philosophers taught it. And honestly, it's a perfectly reasonable guess. It's not stupid. It's just wrong. Let me put it this way. If I handed you a brick and said, build me a house, you'd look at the brick and know where the house came from bricks. That's the intuition. You see the raw material, you trace it to the product. But what if someone built a house and you couldn't see the bricks arrive? You'd probably blame the dirt. That's exactly what we did with trees for 2,000 years. Now here's where it gets good. It's the year 1648. A Flemish scientist named Jan Baptist van Helmont decides he's going to settle this question once and for all, like a true scientist, not by arguing about it, but by measuring it. He gets a pot. He dries out 200 pounds of soil very carefully, removes all the moisture, and weighs it precisely. 200 pounds exactly. Then he plants a willow sapling in it. He weighs the sapling, 5 pounds. He covers the pot so no soil can blow in or out. He waters it only with rainwater or distilled water. And then he waits 5 years. 5 years later, he digs everything up and weighs it again. The willow tree, 169 pounds. It grew 164 pounds of wood, bark, roots, and leaves. The soil, he dries it out again, weighs it. 99 pounds and 14 ounces. The soil barely changed, 2 ounces lighter. But the tree gained 164 pounds. Where did 16 pounds of tree come from? Van Helmont concluded it must have been the water. The tree drank the water and turned it into wood. That was his theory. And honestly, for 1648, that's a brilliant piece of reasoning. He's right that it wasn't the soil. He's just wrong about what it actually was. The full answer wouldn't come for another 150 years. So here's the answer, and I want you to really let it sink in. Trees are made of air. Not metaphorically, literally, the carbon in the wood of a tree, the carbon in every cell, every fiber, every ring comes from carbon dioxide. CO2, the stuff you breathe out, the stuff cars emit, the gas that's invisible, weightless feeling, just floating around everywhere. A tree reaches into the air, grabs invisible gas molecules, and turns them into solid wood. That is one of the most astonishing things in nature, and we just walk past trees every day without thinking about it. Here's how it works at the basic level. Carbon dioxide is CO2, 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms. The tree's leaves pull this gas in through tiny pores called stomata, millions of tiny mouths on the underside of every leaf breathing in air all day long. At the same time, the roots pull up water, H2O, from the soil. This is why the soil gets slightly depleted, not because the tree eats it, just because it drinks from it. Now, and this is the magical part, the tree uses sunlight as energy to break those molecules apart and rearrange them. It strips the carbon out of CO2, it strips hydrogen out of water, and it rebuilds those atoms into long chains of sugar, glucose, C3H12O3. That glucose is wood, it's bark, it's leaves, it's the tree literally assembled atom by atom out of air and water, powered by sunlight. The leftover oxygen, the tree exhales it. That's where the oxygen in our atmosphere comes from, trees breathing out. Think about what's happening here. You take a gas, something you can't see, can't hold. That weighs almost nothing in your hand, and you use light, which also has no mass, to turn it into something you can touch, something solid enough to build a house from. It's like, imagine I gave you a pile of fog and a flashlight and said, make me a table. That's what trees do every single day. Now, if you want, we can go deeper, because the how is even more wild. Inside every leaf, there are cells. Inside those cells are tiny green structures called chloroplasts. And inside those chloroplasts is where the real magic happens. Chloroplasts contain a molecule called chlorophyll. That's what makes plants green. And chlorophyll has a very specific, almost unbelievable ability. It can capture a single photon of light, a photon, the smallest possible unit of light, a quantum of electromagnetic radiation. When a photon hits a chlorophyll molecule, it excites an electron, kicks it to a higher energy state. That excited electron then travels down a chain of proteins like a ball rolling down a staircase, and every time it drops a step, it releases energy. That energy is captured and stored as ATP, the energy currency of life, and that ATP is what powers the construction of sugar from carbon dioxide. Photosynthesis actually has 2 stages. Scientists call them the light reactions and the dark reactions, or the Calvin cycle. In the light reactions, the leaf captures sunlight and uses it to split water molecules. This releases oxygen, which floats out into the air. This is where the O2 we breathe comes from. In the Calvin cycle, the plant uses the energy it captured to take carbon dioxide molecules and build them into glucose. 6 CO2 molecules plus water plus energy becomes 1 glucose molecule plus 6 oxygen molecules, the whole equation. 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus light C feet H12O plus light C feet H12O plus light C feet H1. Memorize that equation, and you understand one of the most important reactions in the history of Earth. Here's what gets me about this. The efficiency of it: a single chloroplast, smaller than a bacterium, can process hundreds of photons per second. A single leaf has millions of chloroplasts. A single tree has tens of thousands of leaves. A mature oak tree on a summer day is capturing sunlight, pulling carbon from the air, and building solid organic material at a rate of roughly 100 grams per hour. It's a solar-powered, carbon capture, oxygen-producing, self-replicating factory that runs on air and water. And we've been spending billions of dollars trying to build machines that do what trees do naturally, for free, in a park. Now let's zoom out. Because this isn't just a cute fact about trees. Everything alive on this planet is built on carbon. Every animal, every plant, every bacterium, every fungus, carbon-based life. And where does almost all that carbon originally come from? The atmosphere. Plants pull carbon out of the air. Animals eat plants. Other animals eat those animals. When things die, decomposers break them down, and the carbon goes back into the air, or into the soil, or deep underground. Over millions of years, some of that buried carbon got compressed into what we call fossil fuels: coal, oil, natural gas, ancient sunlight stored in carbon chains, waiting. When we burn fossil fuels, we're releasing carbon that trees captured millions of years ago. We're running photosynthesis in reverse really, really fast. Here's the thing Feynman would say, and this is the part I want you to sit with. When you look at a wooden table, you're looking at captured sunlight. When you look at a forest, you're looking at millions of years of the sky made solid. When you eat a salad, you're eating photons from the sun, mediated through leaves. You are right now made largely of rearranged carbon dioxide. The carbon in your bones, your muscles, your brain, it was in the air. A plant captured it. You ate the plant or ate something that ate the plant, and now it's you. You're in a very real sense made of air. So are trees. So is everything alive. Feynman once said that a flower isn't less beautiful when you understand its science. It's more beautiful because now you see the whole story. You see the photons, the chlorophyll, the quantum mechanics, the carbon cycles, the billion years of evolution that produced that little green machine. That's how I feel about trees. Next time you walk past one, really look at it. That trunk isn't dirt, it's not water, it's frozen air, assembled molecule by molecule, powered by a star 93 million miles away. That's not a metaphor, that's chemistry. So here's my challenge to you. Next time you're outside, find a tree, any tree, and ask yourself, what is this thing actually made of? Ask that question about anything. A wooden chair, a loaf of bread, your own hand. Because the habit of asking, but where did this actually come from? That's the habit that leads to real understanding. That's how Van Helmont thought. That's how the scientists thought who eventually figured out photosynthesis. They didn't accept the obvious answer. They measured, they questioned, they looked deeper, and every time you do that, every time you pull back the curtain on something ordinary, the world gets bigger, more surprising, more beautiful. If this video made you think differently about something you walk past every day, hit subscribe, because that's what this channel is, Ordinary Things. Explain until they become extraordinary. There's a video linked right there about where the oxygen in the ocean comes from. I promise it'll surprise you just as much as this one did. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next one.